Marcus Reynolds maneuvered his wheelchair with practiced ease through the bustling lobby of the downtown branch of Sterling National Bank, the early morning sunlight streaming in through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting long beams that danced lightly across the polished marble floor. The air was filled with the quiet hum of conversations, the soft clinking of keyboards, the rustle of papers, and the occasional murmur of a printer coming to life, all creating the familiar soundtrack of a place where money changed hands and dreams either blossomed or withered. This Monday morning was like many others on the surface, but for Marcus it marked the beginning of a new chapter, a pivotal moment that could reshape not only his own future, but the future of the community. He had devoted himself to uplifting for years. A spinal injury from a car accident had confined him to the wheelchair he now sat in, but it had never confined his spirit, his drive, or the razor-sharp intellect that had earned him respect in business circles despite the prejudices he faced. His tailored navy blue suit, crisp white shirt, and the faint glint of a silver watch on his wrist were deliberate choices, symbols of professionalism and determination. He was here not as a charity case or a figure of pity, but as a serious entrepreneur ready to finalize the largest business loan of his career. Yet, even as he approached the service counter, the atmosphere shifted subtly, the invisible barrier of judgment already descending. Jenna, a young bank teller in her early 20s with a permanent frown etched on her face and a guarded stance, stood behind the counter, her eyes glued to the screen of her computer, barely acknowledging Marcus's presence. She was new to the bank, and though outwardly professional, her demeanor betrayed a simmering impatience and an undercurrent of bias that Marcus had learned to recognize all too well. As he came closer, her lips curled into a sneer, and under her breath, low but distinct enough for him to catch, she muttered, "What's this guy going to do, roll his way through the line?" Her voice carried a biting contempt, a cruel underestimation of his worth, not because of his business acumen, but because of his physical condition and, unmistakably, the color of his skin. The words landed heavily in the quiet hum of the bank, and for a brief second, Marcus felt the familiar sting of humiliation, a pang that resonated deep within his core. Yet, he refused to let it consume him. Instead, he paused in front of her station, maintaining eye contact with a calm and steady gaze that spoke volumes more than any harsh reply could. His smile was faint but genuine, a testament to his resilience. "Good morning," he said with measured dignity, his voice steady and clear. "I'm here to finalize the loan for my new business venture." His tone held no trace of anger or desperation, only quiet strength and unwavering confidence. Jenna snorted dismissively, rolling her eyes in a display of blatant disrespect, as if his presence was an inconvenient disruption to her day rather than a valued client deserving of service. "Sure," she sneered, her voice dripping with condescension. "Let me guess. Some big dream that'll never happen. You don't look like the type to run a business." The words hung in the air, cutting sharper than any blade, a harsh reminder of the prejudices still deeply entrenched in places that prided themselves on professionalism and fairness. Around them, the customers waiting in line shifted uncomfortably, some averting their gaze, unwilling to witness the confrontation, others whispering among themselves, their expressions a mixture of sympathy, disbelief, and quiet outrage. Marcus sensed the mounting tension, the way the air thickened with unspoken judgments, and the silent spectatorship of those caught in the crossfire of this quiet but powerful moment. He was more than a man in a wheelchair. He was a force of nature shaped by struggle and triumph, someone who had built a multi-million-dollar company from the ground up, who had weathered storms of discrimination, poverty, and personal loss with unwavering resolve. This moment, though painful, was yet another opportunity to assert his dignity and demand the respect he deserved. His mind briefly flashed back to the early days after his injury, the grueling months of rehabilitation, the nights spent wrestling with self-doubt, the subtle and overt slights that tried to confine him to a narrative of limitation. But here he was, years later, his business flourishing, his vision clear, his impact undeniable. He was no stranger to challenges, and this bank teller's dismissiveness was just another obstacle to overcome. Gathering himself, Marcus leaned forward slightly, resting his hands on the counter, and spoke with a calm yet authoritative voice. "I understand that you might have doubts, but I assure you, my business is solid, my plans are detailed, and I'm prepared to meet all requirements." He produced a sleek leather portfolio and carefully opened it, revealing layers of meticulously organized documents, financial statements, projections, contracts, letters of endorsement from high-profile partners, and a comprehensive business plan. These documents outline everything you need to know about my company and the positive impact it will have. Jenna glanced at the papers, her expression momentarily flickering between skepticism and surprise. She tried to maintain her composure, but the facade of indifference cracked ever so slightly. However, instead of acknowledging the gravity of the situation, she resorted to a defensive smirk. "I'll have to get my manager involved," she said curtly, tapping away at her keyboard as if trying to dismiss the matter. The murmurs from the waiting line grew louder, eyes now fixed on Marcus and Jenna with heightened interest. Marcus remained patient, knowing that this was more than just a bureaucratic hurdle. It was a test of character, a microcosm of a larger fight for dignity and equality. He pulled out his phone and with a few taps played a short video, a testimonial from a respected CEO and longtime client who praised Marcus's professionalism, integrity, and the innovative nature of his business. The video played clearly on the bank's monitor, capturing the attention of everyone nearby. Jenna's eyes widened in disbelief, the realization dawning on her that she had grossly underestimated the man before her. Marcus sat back, steady and composed, allowing his accomplishments and quiet confidence to speak louder than any words of resentment or prejudice. This was his moment to not just demand respect, but to earn it, to dismantle the walls of ignorance with evidence and grace. Around them, the atmosphere shifted. The bank's routine morning had transformed into a stage for a powerful narrative about resilience, prejudice, and triumph. Marcus Reynolds was no longer just a man in a wheelchair. He was a symbol of defiance and hope, challenging the narrow-mindedness that had sought to diminish him and setting the stage for a reckoning that would reverberate far beyond the walls of Sterling National Bank. Marcus Reynolds remained perfectly composed, his face a mask of calm resolve, as he reached into his briefcase with deliberate grace and pulled out a thick stack of documents that were the very embodiment of his dedication, intelligence, and years of hard work. The binder was neatly organized, its professional leather cover bearing the subtle embossing of his company's logo, a symbol of pride for everything he had built against all odds. As he laid the documents gently on the polished bank counter, he looked Jenna straight in the eyes and spoke with quiet authority, his voice calm but unyielding. "These are the financial statements, contracts, and letters of endorsement for my company. I've secured a multi-million-dollar deal and I am here to move forward with the bank's support." The words hung in the air like a challenge, daring anyone to question the validity of his claim or the seriousness of his purpose. Jenna's expression, once so smug and dismissive, began to falter. Her eyes flickered to the top sheet, skimming, a balance sheet showing revenue growth that defied economic downturns, to contracts with established clients that spelled stability and promise, and to endorsements from respected industry leaders who vouched for Marcus's integrity and vision. But instead of swallowing her pride and acknowledging her mistake, Jenna's face hardened. She quickly masked her surprise with a forced smirk, a defense mechanism to hide the vulnerability she felt from being caught off guard. "Well," she said, tapping at her keyboard with forced casualness, "the bank has certain policies and procedures in place, and I'll have to check with my manager to proceed with a loan of this size." Her tone was clipped, designed to dismiss Marcus's achievements and stall the process, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her uncertainty. Marcus nodded patiently, undeterred by her reluctance or the invisible walls she was trying to erect. He knew this was just another obstacle, a symptom of a deeper bias, but also an opportunity to rise above it with evidence and grace rather than confrontation. He pulled out his phone and tapped the screen to play a carefully prepared video testimonial from one of his major clients, a well-known CEO with a sterling reputation, who spoke eloquently about Marcus's business acumen, ethical standards, and the transformative impact his company was making in the community. The video played on the small monitor, Jenna had mounted at her station, its crystal-clear sound filling the room. As the respected CEO's voice echoed through the bank's quiet lobby, every customer in line stopped their chatter, their eyes turning to the screen in collective awe. The testimonials weren't just praise, they were proof, undeniable and authentic, dismantling the assumptions Jenna had made based on appearance and ignorance. Jenna's eyes widened as she watched, her smug facade crumbling completely now. As she realized the depth of her error, the room seemed to hold its breath, waiting for her reaction, but she said nothing. Instead, her fingers hovered uncertainly over the keyboard, no longer tapping out dismissive messages, but searching for answers. Marcus's presence was magnetic, his calm confidence inspiring a shift in the energy around him. Customers whispered among themselves, some nodding appreciatively, others casting sideways glances at Jenna, whose silence spoke louder than any apology ever could. Marcus maintained his posture, dignified and patient, understanding that change rarely came from anger, but from the quiet power of undeniable truth. This moment was more than a business transaction. It was a confrontation with prejudice, a statement about respect and equality, and Marcus was determined to win it without compromising his character. The bank manager appeared moments later, drawn by the crowd and the unmistakable gravity of the situation. Marcus greeted him respectfully, offering a brief but compelling summary of his business and the importance of the loan to his next phase of growth. The manager reviewed the documents with careful attention and watched the testimonial video himself, nodding in genuine admiration. "Mr. Reynolds," he said, meeting Marcus's gaze, "this is truly impressive. I apologize if you have been treated unfairly here today." Jenna stood awkwardly to the side, the weight of her actions pressing down on her as the manager's words echoed around the room. Marcus smiled, a smile not of triumph but of quiet victory, a victory for patience, dignity, and the refusal to be diminished by ignorance. The customers resumed their business, but the lesson lingered in the air, a reminder that true strength lies in grace under pressure, and that sometimes the quietest voices demand the most attention. Jenna would soon face consequences for her behavior, but in this moment, it was Marcus's unshakable presence and unassailable proof that commanded the day. The bank's polished walls had borne witness to a small but powerful turning point, reminder that respect must be earned and given equally, no matter the chair one sits in or the color of their skin. The moment the bank manager, Mr. Harold Jensen, entered the lobby, his sharp eyes immediately caught the unusual scene unfolding at the teller counter. The normally quiet morning had morphed into a small spectacle, with customers frozen mid-conversation, their attention riveted on the interaction between Marcus Reynolds and the young teller, Jenna. Mr. Jensen was a seasoned professional, known for his stern yet fair approach, and his reputation for running a tight ship in this downtown branch was well earned. His steps were brisk but measured as he approached the counter, where Marcus sat composed in his wheelchair, documents neatly spread before him, and Jenna standing awkwardly to the side, the usual confident sneer replaced by a flustered expression. Marcus looked up as Mr. Jensen came into view, offering a polite but firm greeting. "Good morning, Mr. Jensen. Thank you for coming." His voice was steady, imbued with the quiet dignity that had become his trademark. He then proceeded to explain succinctly the situation, his business loan application, the dismissive and discriminatory behavior he had endured, and the importance of this loan not just for his company's future, but for the many employees whose livelihoods depended on it. Mr. Jensen listened intently, his brow furrowing slightly as he scanned the detailed financial reports and contracts Marcus had presented. The professionalism and thoroughness of the documents impressed him immediately. He clicked play on the video testimonial from the respected CEO, and as the powerful endorsement echoed through the lobby, the weight of Marcus's credibility became undeniable. Turning to Marcus, Mr. Jensen's tone softened with genuine respect. "Mr. Reynolds, I am very impressed by your credentials and the thoroughness of your application. It's clear you have put considerable effort and expertise into building a strong business. I sincerely apologize if you have been treated unfairly during your visit here today." The words hung in the air, a public acknowledgement of wrongdoing that was both rare and significant. Jenna, who had been standing silently beside them, suddenly felt the full force of the manager's words. Her face flushed crimson, a mixture of embarrassment, guilt, and a dawning awareness of the gravity of her misjudgment washing over her. She swallowed hard, unable to meet the eyes of the growing crowd of onlookers who now watched her with quiet disapproval. Mr. Jensen's gaze shifted to her, his expression hardening into a firm but professional reprimand. "Jenna, discrimination or disrespect towards any client, regardless of their background or physical condition, is absolutely unacceptable and will not be tolerated in this branch or any other part of this bank. Your behavior today has reflected poorly on our institution, and I expect immediate corrective action on your part." Jenna nodded meekly, the weight of her mistake sinking in as murmurs of approval rippled through the waiting customers. Some whispered quietly among themselves, commending Marcus's patience and dignity. Others exchanged glances filled with a newfound respect for the man who had turned what could have been a humiliating encounter into a powerful lesson on resilience and equality. The atmosphere in the bank had shifted palpably. The usual transactional routine was replaced by a collective consciousness stirred by justice being served, however quietly. Marcus felt a surge of satisfaction, not from vengeance, but from the knowledge that his response had sparked a change, however small, in a place where bias had threatened to overshadow fairness. Mr. Jensen then turned back to Marcus, offering a handshake that conveyed both apology and solidarity. "We will expedite your loan application and ensure that your business receives the support it deserves." This moment was a victory not just for Marcus, but for every person who had ever faced dismissal based on prejudice. As Jenna quietly retreated to her workstation, chastened and reflective, Marcus gathered his documents with calm efficiency, the crowd's quiet applause a testament to the respect he had earned. The incident would ripple beyond the bank walls, a story of courage and dignity that would inspire others to stand tall in the face of discrimination. And for Marcus Reynolds, it was a reaffirmation that while prejudice could not be erased overnight, the power of integrity and unwavering resolve could dismantle it piece by piece, creating a pathway for real change in even the most unlikely places. By the time the workday drew to a close, the atmosphere in the bank had changed drastically from the tense, uncomfortable energy that had marked the morning. The incident involving Marcus Reynolds and Jenna the teller had sparked a ripple effect of reflection, accountability, and transformation within the institution, leading the Human Resources Department to swiftly take action once the full details of Jenna's discriminatory behavior had been reported and reviewed in depth. Jenna was summoned to a private meeting room, her face pale with apprehension, as the HR manager, Ms. Karen Whitmore, laid out the bank's strict policies against any form of discrimination or disrespect toward clients, emphasizing that the bank upheld an unwavering commitment to inclusivity, fairness, and dignity for all customers, regardless of race, physical ability, or background. The evidence presented was irrefutable: testimonies from witnesses, security footage capturing Jenna's mocking gestures and dismissive tone, and, most importantly, the documented complaint filed by Marcus himself, which detailed the humiliating treatment he had endured. Ms. Whitmore's tone was firm yet professional, as she informed Jenna that her conduct was a serious violation of the bank's core values and ethics, and as a result, her employment was terminated effective immediately, with the explanation that such behavior was incompatible with the standards expected of every employee and detrimental to the bank's reputation and mission. Jenna left the meeting stunned and regretful, the reality of her actions and their consequences settling heavily upon her as she realized the gravity of the harm she had caused, not just to Marcus, but to the institution she had represented. Meanwhile, Marcus's loan application was fast-tracked with remarkable efficiency, as the bank's leadership recognized the importance of supporting a client who exemplified determination, professionalism, and success in the face of adversity. The financial assistance enabled Marcus to expand his business, investing in new technologies, hiring additional staff, and launching community outreach programs designed to empower others facing similar challenges. Word of the incident spread quickly throughout the city and beyond, carried by local news outlets, social media, and conversations in neighborhoods and workplaces, turning Marcus into a symbol of resilience and strength, a man who refused to be defined or diminished by ignorance and prejudice, instead using grace, intelligence, and undeniable proof of his worth to claim justice and respect. His story inspired countless individuals who had faced discrimination, encouraging them to stand tall, to respond with dignity and evidence rather than anger, and to never let others determine their value or limit their dreams. Marcus was invited to speak at schools, business forums, and diversity initiatives, sharing not only his journey, but the lessons learned about courage, patience, and the transformative power of confronting injustice with calm resolve. The bank itself undertook a comprehensive review of its training programs and customer service policies, implementing new workshops focused on unconscious bias, empathy, and inclusivity, ensuring that employees were better prepared to serve and respect every client equally. Through these changes, the institution sought to rebuild trust with the community, acknowledging that one moment of prejudice could catalyze a movement toward greater awareness and accountability. Marcus's business flourished, becoming a cornerstone of the local economy and a beacon of hope and possibility. His success story was not just about financial achievement, but about breaking down barriers, challenging stereotypes, and demonstrating that dignity and respect are rights owed to all. The legacy of that day, the day a man in a wheelchair subjected to mockery and doubt turned the tables with unwavering dignity and undeniable proof, remained a powerful testament to the human spirit's capacity to overcome injustice and inspire lasting change, reminding everyone that the true measure of a person lies not in the judgments cast upon them, but in the strength with which they carry themselves and the grace with which they confront adversity.